Today we are talking about vampires. I'm Michael, and today we have in our virtual studio
Dayveonne Bussey, Vampire Slayer.
Corey the Blade Davis. I don't know where that came from.
All right, so we're going to talk about vampires, different vampire movies, things we liked, things we didn't like. Let's start out with Blackest Night, because that's a newer film. It's on Amazon. It's an Amazon original. I like the fact that they tried to do different things. I like the fact it was still a mixed cast, but a lot of black people in a vampire film. And it wasn't a B-movie. It was done, it was done. All right, but Dayveonne, you're shaking your head because you had some issues with this film.
Well, it wasn't this film. I said this film had potential. It's just the fact that in one of the scenes in the film, I didn't quite understand the fact that the girl get bitten, but all the other characters that got bitten were able to turn her, and she wasn't.
Oh, they kind of gave the reason for that. Now I think about it, and I'm glad. See, that's why I'm glad I waited for the show. So one of the messages throughout the whole film is that she was special because she was so dark-skinned. And they played a lot of things on society, racism, post-traumatic slavery disorder, the whole thing of, black people not liking who they are, their skin color, especially those that are darker. So part of her resistance was the fact she had so much melanin.
Well,
that was where they went.
But that was just for that film, because just to let the audience know, there were other vampire films that they had blacker characters and they turned.
Again, they're the only. Well, this is what was a little unique about it, is because they didn't add that element. So that
correct.
But they didn't clearly say that. So I'm just putting those pieces together. They clearly said that she would be one of the most strongest vampires. Like, for instance, those with a lot of melanin could walk in the sunlight. They don't have to fear the sunlight. They're not going to burn up. But now I think about it, did that make sense? Because her mother burned up, didn't she?
Yeah.
And her mother wasn't light-skinned. She was dark and brown.
But she was also
Spoilers?
What happened? Yeah, that was
Spoilers?
a little bit of a spoiler. But you don't know which mother character I'm talking about, so you don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh, gosh.
So, I thought it was a good ride. They definitely, yes, a black class, but they tried to put sprinkles of diversity
historic
in there,
black,
which is interesting. But yeah, I think you're right, Dayveonne. They weren't super clear, so you kind of have to put those pieces of the puzzle together. Also, I'm not going to say which scene as a spoiler, but there were two vampires that got pushed to the side or knocked out or something. And then, did you notice there were two vampires at some point in the film that, where did they go?
Yeah.
So
I did.
So there were little things in there that I think they were so caught up in trying to get their message on skin color that they overlooked
a lot of stuff that was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now, the next vampire film we're going to be talking about is Vampire versus the Bronx.
Dun, 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 dun. So
now, I knew what type... Now, I knew what direction they were going with the film. It does show some type of, black communities being overrun by gentrification. But
like, vampires in Brooklyn or vampires versus Bronx?
Vampire versus Bronx.
Okay.
So my issue with this film was, okay, you're done with vampires. Yeah, you know the lore. Yeah, you know this. But it was super... I understand where they were going with it. I think they was going with a PG-13 setup, but at the same time, I really feel as though you didn't elaborate with the whole biting aspect, because you bit certain people in the film and nobody changed into a vampire, which bothered me, because when you bite somebody, either you bite them until they dry, until they no longer have blood, or you bite them until they're turned into a ghoul.
Well, that's the thing. In this movie, they were trying to say everything that you know about vampires is different because we're going to operate in our own set of rules. And that was one of their set of rules. Like, they tell you that from the beginning. So, like, you can't apply vampire lore to this movie.
Right.
Which is kind of stupid because if you're a true vampire person and understand the lore, you can't go against it. You got to know your research. You got to.
But that's the purpose of the film. they even said that. They said everything that you know about vampires is not true, and then we're going to give you the rules that we're going to operate with.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the first rule that you have to do with every vampire film is to create what the rules are within that universe, within that world.
Like, I do know, like, you can't let a vampire in your house. They can't come in your house.
But again, it's like, who's telling the story? It's the rules of who tells the story. I mean, a lot of films, especially because of the whole world of Scream, right? Because Scream was one of the first films to put every horror movie on its head and make fun of the rules that writers kind of followed. Because this works in a film, so I'm going to keep making films like this, and then made fun of things like, okay, well, the pretty girl has to die at the end or survive or this and that, or the virgin has to be killed. It becomes almost like a joke where so many people repeated the same thing. So you're seeing that now with vampire films is people have no original ideas, so they have to stay within the lines of this is the law, and which is kind of funny and sarcastic in a way that you would have a character talking about that, which goes along with this film, which is one of the cult classics that did that really well, The Lost Boys.
Yeah. Classic.
Where it says, these are the rules. You see, read here, these are not just comic books, this is how things are, so.
This is a guide.
This is the Bible of killing vampires.
Right, so I hear you. I mean, look at Dracula. Bram Stoker's Dracula pretty much keeps with the tradition, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah. But then we had like another story of a human version of Dracula who wasn't really a vampire. He was just a psychopath that likes to kill people and chop their heads off and leave them on the stake. Like, leave their heads on stakes.
You mean the actual
Dracula, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't know, do we? I mean, that's all. We don't know.
Like, we've never seen vampires in real life, so we won't know, really.
Speak for yourself.
Have you seen the movie The Vampire's Assistant?
Yes, because you made me see it, and thank you very much.
Very, very good film, and they were trying to operate within their own parameters and change some of the rules and lore, and I thought that was a very good set of rules that they operated within. Too bad they never did a sequel. Too bad we'll never get a sequel, but I wish they would have continued down that path.
Right.
And did y'all see
that one? Before you tell people about Vampire's Assistant.
What was the question?
I said tell people about Vampire's Assistant.
Oh, so you have John C. Reilly, who plays like this million years old vampire, and he looks for an assistant to do his bidding during the daytime because they rest during the day. But their assistants, however, do not follow those rules. So that's pretty much what the Vampire's Assistant. You have this one kid who is so deep in the vampires, he wanted to become an assistant, and we go on their journey because they operate within a traveling circus. There's a whole war. There's a lot to this movie because it was a book series, and they tried to take the book series, make it into live action. It had a lot of backers. It just did not do well. A cult classic, cult following. If you've never watched that, I would recommend that you do watch it.
And if you want to go with cult classics, Blackula is totally underrated.
Yes.
Totally underrated film.
I've never seen it.
You never saw Blackula? You gotta see it.
Blackula?
You gotta see it.
One day, Corey, once you back in Jersey, we'll watch Blackula.
Yeah. What was the Eddie Murphy Vampire in Brooklyn?
Yeah, Black Vampire in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Did they are they similar?
No, totally different.
Totally different. And I'm glad that Eddie did that now, thinking about it. He could have easily have just done a remake, and I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah. Unlike a certain film we don't want to talk about. But anyway.
No, but that was great. Consistently, Corey, now I look at it, a lot of films, if I have an issue, it's usually the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the endings are not executed well in films, especially horror films.
Because the ending is supposed to tie the story together. If you don't tie the story together, what do you have? It's like an unfinished book.
Right.
Queen of the Damned. Great concept.
Classic.
Oh,
classic. But and I know because they lost Aaliyah, so there were a lot of things that they could not do. But it felt like that. It was almost like you really should have filmed it all over again with someone else. I hate to say that because Aaliyah and everything.
Well,
but
who can you see? Well, who can you see taking that spot?
Well, again, the allure of that character is because people loved Aaliyah so much.
Yeah.
So you'd have to, again, kind of like the Paris Hilton thing, you have to separate yourself from that and then watch the film. And if you watch that film and separate yourself from liking Aaliyah.
But here's the funny thing. I didn't like the film because of Aaliyah. I liked the film because of the imagery, the story, and everything else with it. It had nothing to do with Aaliyah. And Aaliyah was perfect in that film.
That's still one of the best vampire movie soundtracks ever put. But to get back to your point, Michael, is when you do that, when you have an artist who can't finish the film, you kind of take away that person's art and that person's energy and all their what's the word I'm looking for? They did it within her memory, so you can't just erase that character because then it's like she never existed when she puts
essence. Right. You talking about essence? The essence?
The essence, yes.
Yeah, but it's a hard call. And in a way, the film probably did a lot better because people went there for her. But I don't feel I got a full film. I feel like it's either this wasn't well thought of to do the whole thing, or there are pieces missing.
Now, I have a question. Did she die during the movie? Not during the movie, did Leah die when they were trying to finish the movie up, or?
I think that's what happened.
I think that's what happened too.
Let me look it up.
Because after watching it, I know some of the stuff they had to rush and do it in CGI, if I remember at the end of the film.
Right.
And there were certain things that were supposed to be done, and they couldn't do those certain things because I think it was supposed to have been a sequel.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong.
I mean, there are tons of films that do the band sell their soul to the devil or get taken over and this and that, and this film was kind of like that whole kind of feel. I thought it was cool. Like Corey said, it was a nice sonic vibe to go along with the film, which you don't see often, especially with that genre. But I got to see it again now, but I do remember feeling like it didn't feel like a well-cooked meal of a movie. It feels like, I don't know, something was missing. It probably was Aaliyah. Probably was.
Yeah, it was. So she did not, she was unable to complete the filming of the movie. So that's why it was incomplete, and that's why there were some CGI parts.
So I was right.
Yeah, we went into that knowing that it was incomplete because this was the last thing. But with someone do a reboot, I'm not against it. I actually think we should do a better version. That's one of the things that we should reboot.
Gotcha. What about
Or
Dark
remake.
Shadows? Now that was a remake of
That
something
w-
really dark, and they made it a quirky, dark thing. It didn't kind of. He was more like a ghoul, Johnny Depp's character, than a straight up vampire.
Man,
It was kind of a weird mix between a ghoul and a vampire.
that's Disney, and I don't even want to get into that.
It wasn't a bad film.
No, it wasn't a bad film. It was
Just to me, like, oh,
off.
go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
That was just off.
I mean, it's Tim Burton. So, of course it's gonna be off.
Like, don't get me wrong. I like Tim Burton stuff, but then again, Tim Burton can do stuff and turn you off. You know,
All right.
and I don't want to say that.
And speaking of turn off, what about the whole Twilight series? Is it just me?
Oh, I've been over that. I ain't. Come
We
on.
were not the target audience, okay?
Yeah, like the wrong group of people to ask that
We were
question.
not the target audience. That's all. I watched the first one. I don't remember being ecstatic. I don't remember being too disappointed. I was like, this just isn't for me. I got to the end and I was like, yeah, I don't care to see the rest. But
I was the guy at the theater throwing popcorn and soda once they basically had him go to the sunlight. And he doesn't burn, he glisters. He sparkles.
I think that was
I was like,
the anger in that. There have been vampires that could walk in the sunlight. There have been.
but it was,
It was just different.
like, but the way they set it up was like he was so shiny and glistering through the sunlight. Like, yes, this is me, and I'm like, this is not vampire lore.
That's like saying 50 Shades of Grey is not the right way to act in a relationship. Like, you can pick it apart, but you're not the target audience, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I was disappointed. I can't, that wasn't the right audience for that film. Like, we're not. We're like,
Well, fast audience, what do you think of it as a film? Forget, because I mean, I'm not the audience for Pinocchio, but I'll tell you, there's some things wrong with that film. Actually, what's it called? Peter Pan. But that's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
You watch Peter
Yeah.
Pan as an adult, and you be like, yo, there's a lot of things wrong with this film. So, just Twilight series
Well-
as a film, what did you think?
I think it's watchable. If you haven't watched it,
Mhm.
watch for yourself. Form your own opinion. Some people
What is
did
your opinion,
like-
Kari?
I thought it was watchable.
Okay.
I didn't love it. It wasn't the best, but it was good for what it was.
you don't know my opinion. I already told you. I threw soda and popcorn at the screen.
Yeah, I wasn't a good time. There was too much of flashbacks, the slow motions. It was like a Pantene commercial mixed in with selling jeans and
Right, but it was a book series. They were trying to add.
get teenagers into relationships when they should be studying, doing their homework.
However,
Yes.
if you talk to a real fan of the books, the movies actually got better. The first one is the worst one, but apparently
Okay.
the second one, the third one, and I believe it's the fourth one, they were way better than the first. I'll give them a try, but
Okay. Well, one series started out awesome, kind of how we feel about Empty Man. Underworld.
Yes.
yeah.
Underworld was great. Yeah.
I love that. Until they did
What was it?
Like,
Underworld Revelation? What was it?
what was the one where she had to save the daughter, and then they add the detective in there because they was looking for the husband, the boyfriend or the husband, whoever he was.
Was it Evolution?
So
I think it was Evolution.
I did not like that film. I bought it and I was thinking, this is gonna be the hottest thing. And then I watched it, I was like, yo, the CGI on these characters was whack.
I remember liking Rise of the Lycans. I think it was Evolution. I think Evolution is the one that people have a problem with.
Yeah, but the other one, the one when they went back in time and explained the story about the brothers, was freaking awesome. That one, it was elaborated. It was clear. You understood what was going on. But that one, I was like, I wanted to throw my disc out the window once I finished watching it.
How are we going to have a vampire episode and not talk about True Blood?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because True Blood's a series, but go ahead.
I mean,
well
played.
Answered your own question.
Yeah. It was so good, it should be a film series. I thought they were going to make it into a film series because it was so popular, but it's never too late. Putting it out there. All those executive producers make True Blood into a full feature film series.
They still can do it. HBO still owns the rights. Look at what they did with The Sopranos.
Well, Lafayette died, and he was one of the best parts of the show, so.
Yeah. Rest his soul.
You think that will happen?
It's a strong possibility. They
With
did that
everything-
with The Sopranos.
Right.
With everything being
Did anybody
rebooted.
watch the movie though?
Huh?
The Soprano movie.
The mini Saints and
Many Saints of North. As far as I know, they're coming out with a sequel.
Wow.
I think it's still on HBO Max. Catch it while you can.
Yeah.
All right. Trying to think
Anything
what is
else?
the so all right, so what advice can we give to future filmmakers, Hollywood, I know Dayveonne, you're really strong on the lore. Do you think that they need to brush up?
Do their research.
Do their
Yeah,
research
brush up
there?
on your research. Yeah, brush up on your research on certain things because people will call you out on certain things on that film. Like you got audiences that actually study vampires and certain things they will call you out on. So you have to let the audience know, look, this is a different universe. This is our intake of it or something. Because once you create a vampire film, you gotta be on point. That's with any lore, like any monster lore, from video games to monster lore, all the above. You gotta be on point with your lore.
I will agree with you to a point. You have to know the rules before you break the rules. Because if you're going to break it, make sure it makes sense. That's the best advice.
And I agree with Corey on that one.
That's it?
Do something different. Make it make sense. We don't have to have somebody transform into a bat. The flight, that's cool. Not seeing yourself in mirrors, very cool.
Robot vampires or robot zombies.
Well,
that's universal social.
How mystical do you guys like it to be? Because that's a good point, Corey. I mean, I haven't seen any vampire that turned into a bat in anything recent for the last decade or so.
Unless it's a kid's film.
Do you like that mystical, you can turn into a bat, turn into a wolf kind of thing, or you want it to be as, I would say normal as possible, but scientific, realistic, non-fantasy?
I mean, the whole parallel between bats and vampires makes sense. Bats suck blood, vampires suck blood, so they can be one and the same. I get that. I think it does make sense because if you have normal teeth and all of a sudden you can just grow fangs, why can't you transfigurate and grow wings? It just makes sense.
American Horror Story, their new season, I believe this is season either 9 or 10. They have a very interesting take on vampires. I am only on episode 2, so I'm not that far in. But to see where they go with it, because like they like to brush you into a situation, then they go back in time of how you got there, then go forward. So I'm curious to see where they're what lore they are creating within the American Horror Story universe.
I have not watched any American Horror Story season, episode, nothing. So
Really? I am
What?
surprised, Corey.
I don't know.
American Horror Story 19, what was it, 1960?
84 or what was it?
Yo, that one.
They
Yeah,
did-
the one that you got me into. That was fire. 1986 or something, 1987. The one when they're in the camp.
Because
And they just-
the only thing I know is the same actors and actresses,
Mhm.
but it's just a different time period or different. Like there's clowns, there's a mansion. It's to me it
Depends
sounds
on the.
confusing, but I haven't really dived into
Well,
Actually,
it.
they did a
depends-
vampire thing a little bit with Lady Gaga.
They did?
I think that season. I know they spent more time with the witches.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I heard that one was good. Everyone raved
And the
about
one when they did with the camp, with the lake, like close
The
to.
camp was really
Chicks.
good, right?
Yeah, that was fire.
From circus stuff to slavery to, I mean, they jump all over the place, but it's twisted, dark, and I figured it'd be Corey goodness. I'm really surprised.
Nice. Yeah, that sells Corey all over again. Like you can
Really?
see it.
it. I never took the time and like watched it, so I guess I have to now. You guys are putting me on the spot.
Well, yeah, because this is like you're all about the dialogue, all about the story.
You know, like Popeye with his spinach. That's American Horror Stories for Corey.
So isn't it like a little? Don't they go into like Satanism and demonic stuff a little bit?
They
You know?
they have. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
everything has its.
Yeah.
dark- The whole
Right.
series has its dark tone thing to it. So, it's definitely not for kids.
Yes.
So is it really scary? Does it have like an M rating or is it still like a TV 14?
No, it's M rating. M rating.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of like sex scenes, nudity, and stuff like that.
I forgot which season. There's one or two seasons that are too much for me. I don't touch. I haven't watched all of them, or I'm like, oh, this is too much for me. So I feel you, Corey. No, I hear you. But this new one is interesting. It's more. I like how they're developing the characters and seeing how things move along. Through every series, there is a message. There is a sense of righteousness or goodness packed in, but it's always slam packed right next to, of course, the evil. So, and I guess that's why
So-
they call it American Horror Story.
Can I watch any season without it having callbacks to previous seasons?
So far, this one, the one that's out right now, I haven't seen any callbacks yet, but we'll see. I haven't gotten that far into it. So, but alrighty. All right, so let's give everybody our social media.
Dayveonne Bussey on Facebook and Instagram, and Shamal Williams on Twitter.
Corey Davis, you can find me at IamGT3 on all the things.
All of the things, Corey?
All the things.
Thanks.
Cool, and I'm Michael7Michael. And you're watching GeekCaster. Thank you so much for checking us out. You could always go to geekcaster.com. And we're going to keep giving you that geeky stuff. So yeah, we might do a reaction thing to this. We got some messages that we should, as well as some technology. Let's talk about some technology because it's almost time for Christmas shopping. You're watching GeekCaster.